There was no formal research that went into building accessibility tracker. We were just building and adding in features based on what we knew would help clients as they were working through their accessibility project. And not just accessible.org clients, but anybody who has an audit report and is working towards the end objective of WCAG conformance. We were adding in features that we knew either clients were looking for and asking about, but primarily just features that we knew would be beneficial from our experience. And I have 7+ years of experience in digital accessibility and compliance. And then Kushwant, the developer behind Accessibility Tracker, he also has several years experience in digital accessibility. And so we were adding in features that we knew were going to make the accessibility project management process as efficient and as effective as possible. And when I say efficient, just simply saving time and money, and effective meaning that we reach our end objective or we get as close as possible to that. So maybe we can't get to full WCAG conformance, but we can get really close. And if we are close, then at least we know exactly what issues remain outstanding. And one of the long-standing problems in accessibility has been that clients do pay for an audit. They get back their audit report, they work through some issues, but then the project starts to lose momentum and the tracking of the project is difficult. And then the all of the issues are never worked through. They're never completed, they're never resolved. And so the audit really doesn't have a lot of value because a lot of organizations aren't able to work through and complete the audit. And this gets into one of the other things that I sometimes talk about because it goes against what is commonly said is that you can't reach full WCAG conformance or 100% accessibility is not possible. And I obviously it is like we can know exactly what accessibility issues exist, and we just need to work through those issues one by one to resolve them. And it really helps if you have focus on exactly what the issues are. But in the industry, as I'm about to show you with my research, what happens is a lot of platforms they aren't really helpful in terms of making and in terms of reaching that end objective of full WCAG conformance. And the reason why is most of them are based on scans. So going back to the blog post that's on the screen with me, now that Accessibility Tracker has been live for over 2 months, I decided to actually research what is available in the marketplace. Now, I had a general idea based on my experience, but I haven't actually tried to look at what is being offered in literally years. So I went back and looked, and what I found is that the marketplace offerings are mostly the same, or if they have changed, it's not publicly available information that you're going to find without going through a sales demo. And so I get at that in the title of this blog post, which is evaluating platforms for managing accessibility issues. Most are gated behind sales demos. And in this blog post, I have an overview of Accessibility Tracker going through the primary features. And by the way, we are adding in more features. Based on my research, Accessibility Tracker is by far the best platform, but we're not stopping there. Like I said, this was never based on what anyone else was doing. This was just based on what we knew would provide an outstanding experience and helping streamline the process of full WCAG conformance. So of reaching your objective as a client. So going to scroll down here to a table, and this table condenses my findings based on looking at the sales pages for several of the various platforms that are more highly marketed. So there are probably some other platforms I didn't come across, but these were the platforms that I found looking at Google with the addition of Deque, and I'll get to Deque in a second. So one thing that stands out right away is that you can't purchase these platforms directly. So you can't go to a website and simply look at the pricing, enter your credit card information, and then purchase a platform specific to digital accessibility. Now, there are general project management platforms that are available. So think of Asana, think of Monday.com, ClickUp, etc. There are these general project management platforms, but obviously there's a lot of benefit in working with a platform that is designed specifically for an accessibility project. And so you can get the basic features on one of these general platforms, but with the digital with accessibility tracker, again, we wanted to make sure it was the best experience for an accessibility project. And accessibility projects are so involved. There are so many. They can be so expensive, and then they can take so long. It's definitely worth having a dedicated platform for digital accessibility, and especially because there are just contemplations when working on digital accessibility that you're just not going to get certain very helpful features that you will in an accessibility platform, particularly accessibility tracker, that you will not get in one of these general platforms. So going back to pricing, accessibility tracker, you can purchase it directly online. Again, you do not have to be an accessible.org client. And the so accessibility tracker had pricing, so did Accessible Web's ramp platform. And so here I just have the pricing. Tracker starts at $19 a month. You can actually get a free plan, but for the paid plans, you can you can start at $19 a month. For Accessible Web's ramp, you can start at $49 a month. Now, one key difference right away is that accessibility tracker is not based on a scan. It is based on an actual audit report. And that is because with accessibility tracker, again, this is designed to actually help you meet your end objective, not to get a 100% score on a scan, because that is not an objective for anybody. So some people who are using one of these platforms might think that the 100% score is the end objective, but it's not. You will not find, I've never seen one law, definitely not a law, but I haven't even seen like a policy. I suppose there could be where the end objective is 100% score on an automated scan, but we're looking to full WCAG conformance. And as we know, scans are very limited. They are only going to flag about 25% of WCAG 2.1 AA success criteria. So we're not looking at that 100% score. We want full WCAG conformance. And this again gets into a differentiating factor with trackers. Like we wanted something to actually help you reach that full WCAG conformance. So Accessible Web ramp is based on a scan. You can prioritize the remediation. You can assign different issues, or you can involve team members in some way. It wasn't exactly clear to me based on the sales page, but this is just bringing forward the general takeaways that I had from these different sales pages. Accessible Web also offers Jira integration, and they use the term audit results, but this does, from everything I've read, the overwhelming takeaway was that Accessible Web's ramp is scan based. And again, scan based is just, and I talk about this in the preceding paragraph, scan based is just so limited, but that is what the digital accessibility marketplace has been offering for so long, and not just from Accessible Web's ramp, by so many other platforms. They offer these platforms. Another example is Site Improve. Again, it's scan based. Scan based it's only helpful to a point, and so you want to go beyond that point. You want to work towards full conformance, and if you're going to have this entire platform set up, why are we just working to the issues that can be flagged by a scan? So that's a major, major difference, and that is the reason I harp on that. Now, the other platforms, you can't go to a website and make a purchase. You have to go through a sales demo. So this is something that the legacy companies have maintained thus far, is that you have to go through that sales pitch. You have to go and talk to a sales demo. They do not post pricing publicly. You cannot purchase directly off their website. Obviously, this is because they want to talk to you. They want to be able to tell you while their platform is the best. And so what I also found was that you don't get a lot of information off these different sales pages. Some are more helpful than others, and others are very general. So you just don't get the specifics and the details. It's like, okay, I'm going to your sales page, but I have to talk to a sales rep to really find out what these different platforms offer. And so that was another key finding of the research. So let's just go through some of the different platforms. We have Alliant Hub accessibility platform, and I could not tell if this was scan based or audit based, possibly both. But again, just a lack of details. I have here aggregates automated and manual testing results. It wasn't clear exactly what that means. Like, so does that include everything? And then if you're stacking automated and manual testing results, does that mean the manual testing results are incomplete? Because if you have an audit, it really doesn't complement a scan. There should be redundancy with an audit and a scan, because an audit optimally will identify all of the outstanding accessibility issues on your digital asset. A scan only flags for what it can flag for. So it should be redundant. It should be any issues that are correctly flagged by a scan should be redundant with an audit. So this is where education on the part of the buyer really helps, because a lot of buyers don't understand the difference, and it's understandable because accessibility companies are continually engaged in wordplay where they use words interchangeably, and there's some sleight of hand where it's like, well, we'll call testing and we'll call something automated testing, and then we'll say this is manual testing, and we will also refer to a scan as an audit, and so on. And so when you use this wordplay, it can become difficult to determine what is an actual audit, what is the manual effort, how far is the manual effort going, is this user testing, is this a scan, and so on. So continuing on with Allyant, we have Jira integration, high level audit results. So again, what does high level audit results mean? This is a great example of what I was just talking about. Does that just mean that we have, are you deeming a scan an audit? Are you saying, because when you say high level, that makes me think that we're not getting a complete audit. So again, what does this exactly mean? And then it says scheduled automated scans, and then CI/CD tools for developers. So continuing on with TPGI's ARC platform, again, this was unclear if it was based on real audits. And when I say real audits, I mean we have a technical accessibility expert that is going through the digital asset for a given scope, and they are identifying every instance of non-conformance with the web content accessibility guidelines. Not a scan, not just some general manual testing, a full formal manual audit. And by the way, the word manual should be implicit in audit. I usually emphasize it just because of the wordplay that goes on in digital accessibility. So continuing on with the ARC platform, there's an analytics dashboard for automated tests. So again, automated tests, there's no test here, it's a scan. And manual engagements. What does a manual engagement mean? Like, how do those two work together within the platform? And then we have here document asset organization with team access. So I think this is getting at the fact that you can have documentation and you can organize your different assets, what's going on with each digital asset. Full API integration for Azure DevOps, Jira, Excel reports, and development pipelines. Next, we'll look at level accesses platform. Again, very limited specifics that I could tell from their sales page. So I have here includes automated and manual testing, ongoing monitoring and scanning. So when you read monitoring and scanning, that all comes back to an automated scan. So it's just an automated scan that is taking place at intervals, at regular intervals. So it makes it sound like there's more going on than there is. It's just we can set an automated scan to run at, let's say, the first of the month every month. That's not really anything additional. And then we have your analytics, and it integrates with tech ecosystem. So again, this does sound vague, but this is the kind of information that I was able to extract from these different sales pages. And by the way, in this blog post, which I will link to in the description, you can go to the sales pages that I was looking at and see if you can extract any more meaning than I've added to this blog post. So then we have site improve, and again, when I looked at site improve, it was a very ambiguous feature set. Catches, it says, and a lot of this wording is from the wording that the different sales pages used. I have here catches issues on websites and PDFs. So PDFs was a new consideration that I didn't come across with the other platforms. Automatic scans with issue prioritization. So again, automatic scans coming up more and more. Multi-team member assignments, so you can add team members to your platform. And then I added Deque, and this is really, I wanted to include Deque because to me, Deque has the best accessibility tools. And so they have, if you look on the Deque navigation menu, it says something to the effect of like full service platform, something like that. But from the sales page, I didn't get the impression that they actually have a platform. It just looked like it was a suite of different tool offerings that they have. So they highlight here a trio of tools: Axe Dev Tools, Axe Auditor, and Axe Monitor. And to me, it was unclear if any centralized platform exists for project organization. And so I have a write-up on each of the different platforms where I go into a little more detail than we found in that table. But importantly, there's a link to every platform page so that you can read for yourself and see that for the most part, this is unclear. And I think this is problematic, but this has been something that's going on in digital accessibility for a long time. It's just, there's not a lot of precision, and digital accessibility is a unique industry in the fact that companies can get away with this, and they have got away with this for a long time, in that if you look at other platforms, they cannot get away with being unclear because the consumer knows exactly what they're looking for. In accessibility, the buyer doesn't always know what they're looking for. So a lot of times they're reliant upon the different companies, the different sellers, to educate them and lead them to, hey, this is exactly what you need. The problem is what I was talking about before, is a lot of it isn't helpful to actually reaching your end objective. And so to me, when building out accessibility tracker, we're thinking, how exactly do we get to point A to point B to point C, etc., and whatever the endpoint would be? How do we get to that endpoint in the most seamless way possible, taking out all of the friction that we possibly can? How do we get there? And I think with accessibility tracker, I've tried to make it as transparent as possible, exactly what it does, and not forcing anybody to sit through a sales demo to know what exactly you'll get. So I wanted to have this rundown. This was research that I was going through. I spent a few hours on this last night, and it wasn't surprising to me, but it really, the legacy companies have not changed in what they're offering and how they're offering it from several years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago. Whenever I looked last, I had a general feel for it, but I decided, I was like, no, let me actually see what's in the marketplace. And when I did, it was the same. I got the same general takeaway that I had from years ago. So my impression here, in the summary, the platforms are mostly scan based. If they're not scan based, it's difficult for me to know with any level of confidence and certainty if you can make any one or more actually based on only an audit report. I think that is possible. I think some of the different platforms do offer that, but it's just difficult to tell from their sales pages. And then The second bullet point I have here is most are vague in what their capabilities are. Yes, it's look, I really think that if you're researching a platform, you should go to these other platforms and look at what their sales page is and determine if you can see if you can find out exactly what you're getting from these project management platforms. And then the third bullet point I have here is most are not available for direct purchase. And I think this is in large part because the accessibility companies, they want you to have to buy a bundle. They want you to have to purchase a service and use their platform and use their um, to purchase several offerings at once. And with accessible.org, I've taken the opposite approach. I think you should only purchase exactly what you want to purchase and nothing more. And so that's why, that's not why, but like that's one of the thoughts with accessibility tracker is just, if you only want accessibility tracker, if you only want to be a customer of accessibility tracker, you don't have to be a client of accessible.org. And so, but that's just what happens with a lot of accessibility companies is you have to buy an offering, and the offering is usually going to get into the, easily the five-figure mark. So $10,000 being a very low threshold, and more likely you're starting at $15,000 to $20,000 for a lot of these different offerings that are bundled in together. And part of the reason that happens is what there's like it's a hybrid where you're getting, where the digital accessibility companies can say they have a SaaS product, so that's really good for valuations, but then they can bolster their revenue on the professional services. Now, obviously, the professional services are lower margin, so there's not really a focus in on that. And a lot of them know that if they are going to be players in and be a large digital accessibility company, they can't get away from the manual side, but they really dislike the manual side because it's not where, it's obviously not software, it's not where the margins are. And so you'll see that in some of the offerings, in that they don't actually, there's nothing manual about their platform, or there's no manual tie-in to their platform. And that is because they don't want to deal with the manual side whatsoever. Or if they do, it's really siloed in a different, let's say, offering. So that should give you a really good background on the platforms. And as someone who is newer to accessibility, you're researching this space, just know that you're working towards full WCAG conformance, and you don't want to divert from that. And what happens is many organizations purchase scans, and you really don't need to purchase a scan. Now, if it provides value to you, sure. But for a lot of organizations, and if you don't know any better, then you probably don't want to buy a scan. I would wait to buy on a scan, and I would use one for free. It's a really expensive setup to just work on 25% of the accessibility issues in WCAG 2.1 AA versus full conformance. So that's what's gone into accessibility tracker. That's what we were thinking about as we were building it. It's like, let's actually help clients get from the starting point to the end point, get away from the confusion, get away from the accessibility as a journey, any type of that mantra. Let's just get away from that completely, because it's unhelpful, right? If we make things generalized, it's very unhelpful, because then what exactly are we doing? We need to know exactly what we're doing so that we can actually get to full WCAG conformance. If we make everything confusing, if we're not sure whether something is a scan or whether it's manual testing, or where the scan ends and where the manual testing begins, if we're trying to combine a scan and manual testing, whatever manual testing means, if we're conflating the terms audit and user testing, it gets really confusing. And this is where we go back to accessibility as a journey, and we're continually trying to fix things, but we're never quite getting there. And this is, I think, where the origin of perfect accessibility is impossible comes from, is because we don't have any precision. and we don't have transparency into what's actually going on. And so I take the approach of, no, we're going to work through this one issue at a time. We have an audit. The audit, if the audit is provided by a reputable provider, then we know the audit is highly accurate, if not perfect. And we're going to work through that audit one issue at a time. And we are going to make sure that we resolve each issue, or at least account for the issues that we don't resolve. And so that's how we get to our end objective. And that's why I'm so insistent upon precision and making incremental progress. And that is built in to accessibility trackers. So I will include a link to this blog post in the description, along with a link to accessibility tracker. And I've even got a YouTube, there's a YouTube channel for accessibility tracker where I am regularly posting videos to make more of the features for accessibility tracker known. And I recently posted a tutorial there. So I'm not posting on a daily basis by any means, but every few weeks I'm posting a video just to help with using accessibility tracker. And and also just updating on new features. There are so many new features that we are adding to this. And that is because, again, it's not based on anything else. It's like, let's make this the best experience possible. Let's make accessibility projects as seamless as possible. And really, let's just save time and create value for customers of accessibility trackers. So I will include links to all of those resources in the description.